Alrighty. Let's welcome Tuan members. Tuan is from Duotax, and Duotax is one of our partners when it comes to all things depreciation. What a fun topic! I remember last time we had an accountant on. I'm like, how do you get excited about tax? And now I have to ask you the same question. The first thing I've got in my head is, how do you get excited about depreciation, man?
Well, it's been 7 years of it.
Yeah.
So it's just another day in the office for me.
Yeah.
When it comes to depreciation, honestly, it doesn't sound like the most exciting topic.
It doesn't.
But
it doesn't.
Funnily enough for me, it gets me going every day because
Really?
the reason why is when I first started investing, it was mind-blowing to find out that a brand new house, it was a duplex at that time that I purchased, got me something like, I think, $14,000 in tax deduction.
It was the same thing for me as well. Until I got that first check, I didn't know, I didn't believe that it was real.
Yeah.
I thought it was like daylight robbery after I got that check.
And so because no one knows about it, and I mean, for me, had I not spoken to that accountant, and you wouldn't believe, but not every accountant actually will tell you about depreciation. So
I'm so surprised at the number of people that I speak to that have accountants that have no idea that they could depreciate their properties.
Yeah.
Like, this is literally like money down the toilet.
It actually is. And if you don't do it, like, you're really missing the point of going into property. So for me, that instant of being advised about depreciation was life-changing. Yeah. And so when I realized that, and I thought, you know what, I would hesitate to guess of how many people would actually missed depreciation as a tax deduction. So I thought, you know what, how about I actually help other people get depreciation schedules and advise them about it and educate them about it, and this is part of the journey. And
that was 7 years ago?
7 years ago.
Wow. What were you doing before then?
Prior to that, I was a construction management grad, and
so
I went
still
down
in the property space?
I was in the property space,
Okay.
doing construction, and end of the day, depreciation is prepared by quantity surveyors.
Yes.
And because I've studied construction, it was part of that degree that you study the science of quantity surveying, which is measuring building materials, understanding construction costs, and putting together construction projects and understanding materials as a science. And so then I went on to work in civil engineering, and later in life, once I went into property and in investing in property, I come across depreciation, and I decided to make a slight career change into quantity surveying, traditional quantity surveying. So I did a lot of bank reporting for financial lending for construction projects.
And you were working for banks or?
Working for client side.
Okay.
Advising to banks about construction costs and finance for townhouse projects, high rises, that type of thing, for a small firm. And having that sort of traditional background of quantity surveying gives you good understanding of science on the construction space and quantifying the costs of projects. And so using that, I leveraged on that and then decided to make it a passion. But I've always had the idea to go out there and go into depreciation solely, and that's what I did. And now that our business is made up of, I think over 95% of our business is made up of depreciation.
Well, what's the other 5% then? I thought it was 100%.
We do.
That's interesting.
We do.
What's the other 5%?
Still, because of the work that we do,
Yeah.
we've a lot of our work is now quantity surveying, but because of the referral relationship we've had with a lot of accountants, we've naturally gone on to do property valuation as a service. So capital gains tax calculations as well as stamp duty calculations.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a sidestep.
I've got to get into that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's of course.
Because we do that here sometimes even with some of our own properties with our staff, but with our members, they might need valuations for whatever reasons, right?
Yeah, property transfers, deceased estate, where they need to work out CGTs or then have to transfer property between family members, and we work out that value.
Great.
For that.
Well, you hear that, members? If you need a property evaluation, you know who to go to now.
That's it.
And also, obviously, depreciation reports.
That's it.
Okay, so this is an interesting thing because every week, right, I run these webinars. And it's our main webinar to educate people and get them into our ecosystem, right? So we can help them out. And the topic of depreciation is something that I cover quite extensively in the webinar. And I'm so surprised to hear that most people don't even know what depreciation even means. Because every time I mention it, I just see in the chat comments what's depreciation? What do you mean by depreciation? What is depreciation? And so I guess people don't have an understanding of what actual depreciation actually is. So in your words, let us know, what is depreciation?
Well, I've heard it all. I've heard people call depreciation deprecation. I'm not sure if I can say this, but defecation.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say it.
I've heard all the words, but depreciation is no scientific term. It's pretty straightforward, and the definition is simply the wear and tear that an asset generally incurs over a period of time. And that wear and tear is capitalized in a dollar value, in which you can claim against your tax as part of the ATO's ruling. So when you incur wear and tear on your oven or range hood, that value of wear and tear, you can claim that as a tax deduction. And that exactly is what the ATO defines depreciation as.
I'm so glad that you used the term wear and tear to just define it, because that's exactly how I've defined it as well in the webinar that I run. So that's a big win.
Awesome.
Great. So look, we're going to move back to the topic of depreciation a little bit later on. Okay, I wanted to get that definition out of the way first. Let's move back a little bit. I want to go back and into history at some point. For those people that don't know, Tuan and I, we know each other through BNI.
7 years.
7 years, right? Were you in the same BNI group as I?
I was in Spirit, so it's further out west, and you in Panania group.
That's right. So BNI is basically a networking group, business networking, right? So as business owners, you go to this group and network and stuff like that. And it was on every single week. He was part of a group, I was part of a group, and that's how we know each other. Over the past 7 years, I have personally witnessed Tuan himself and his business go from strength to strength. And his business now is what I would call a highly successful business. I want to talk about a little bit about your business, how you got there, some stories along the way, and also some key lessons that you've learned over the past 7 years before we head into the whole depreciation stuff, because that's going to get very technical, I'm sure, later on. So let's start off that, some inspirational stuff first.
Okay, more than happy to.
So, personally, I've seen your business go, like from, I don't know, when you first started off, it was just basically you and, I don't know how many people you had.
Yep.
Today, you've got some very solid employees. I don't know, how many people do you have in your business right now?
We employ, I believe, 25 staff in Sydney.
Still pretty big.
Yeah.
For a depreciation company.
Yeah. So I think when I started, it was a one-man band.
Yeah.
I literally started.
I remember that.
Very much like
I remember you hustling every single week at BNI.
And you understand the BNI, and now for the same thing goes. We have. I would say 7 or 8 BDMs now that all have started, that currently work with us, and they all are in BNIs. And I make a point of that to them. It's a great place to start your career if you're starting in sales. And most of the guys that do BDM work with us are first-time starters in sales, and I think they're the most. You don't need to find a good salesperson to be a successful salesperson. There are many people like us that go through walks of life and start doing sales and can be very good at it.
Well, I wasn't in sales at all. And you would say too, right?
Likewise, I was a civil engineer and then a quantity surveyor. So it's one of those things you find along the way that if you have the passion and the drive and the motivation, that you can simply go into a sales role and do really well if you're selling great products.
And that's the only caveat there. You have to sell great products.
That's it. And you believe in it yourself.
Correct.
And which we did prior to even starting doing depreciation. And so going on this journey was all about, going into doing like the BNI, so networking day in, day out, going in there. I did a lot of cold calling. And then I did a lot of cold visiting, so door knocking.
You did door knocking?
We door knocked.
Wow.
For
selling depreciation?
Yes.
How do you, what's the sales pitch there?
Well, I have a...
knock on your door, knock, hello. Do you want to buy depreciation? How do you do a sales pitch?
Specialised or specific door knocking to likes of mortgage brokers.
Oh, you mean actual
experts.
Like businesses? I thought you meant like residential door knocking.
Yeah, residential door knocking is a little bit challenging. But what we did do in the beginning that was a learning lesson now, and something I can help you guys guide the people out there is when you do door knocking or when you go do things. I was doing open houses with real estate agents. Really? Yes, and at that time there were a lot of investors in the market back in 2015. It was,
I remember the days.
It was a big property boom when we started, and there was a lot of people going to property.
Yeah.
So I would approach. I remember it was Richardson Wrench in Campbelltown. I said, I was door knocking, Queens Road or Queen Street down in Campbelltown. I thought, I'll door knock this real estate. Door knocked, and he gave me an opportunity to get in there and then do open houses with him on the weekend with his whole team. So I could go to any house I wanted. So I would hire interns from university, and I'd get them into my office. We'd print off depreciation estimates for the properties that we would go and do open houses with, and we'd team up with the guys at the real estate agent, and they'd do the flyers, and we would do our own flyers for depreciation, and we talk about depreciation. Someone would get a flyer and they'd be like, yeah, okay, it sounds great, but why would I trust you when my accountant would advise me about tax? And I did that for weeks on weeks, and then eventually I realized, you know what? This really isn't working, is it? So it was a lot of hard work, getting people in and paying these uni grads for $100 a day to come out for a couple of hours and do some open houses with me. And then it was just I think it was the point is with making these efforts of trying different things to see what would work. And eventually, after the door knockings of accountants and mortgage brokers and financial planners and real estate agents I found it was, accountants would yield us the most referrals. And, that became a thing where I said, okay, well, here we found, a specialized way of, attacking our sales strategy. And eventually we did a lot of that, and still to today, we still do a lot of door knocking. And
even today. Really?
Yeah,
That's surprising.
We make it a thing of everybody. Every team member goes out at least once every couple of weeks and door knocks an area, whether it's in Melbourne, whether it's in Sydney, whether it's in Brisbane. I will fly the staff there, door knock for the day, come back, and then see what comes out of it. So
let me ask you a question about that then. Is the door knocking more so because it actually yields actual sales results, or is it more, kind of like boot camp for your staff, for them to go through that experience, for them to learn something?
It's a double-edged sword where you sort of will receive. I think it's a great way to build character. It strengthens your confidence, and you widen your breadth of experience, because seeing someone face to face and interacting with them has a different challenge versus a cold call. And over time, for me today, it is easier to be successful if you find a door you've never knocked before than it is to pick up a phone and call someone you've never called before, because of that human interaction. And we are social creatures, and we thrive on connection. And when we can connect with someone, being nice, being grateful, practicing gratitude, being professional, being humble, these things help us sell what we're trying to achieve. And, I truly believe, I say to the staff all the time, it doesn't matter where you go, everything you've learned here from this business at Duotax, you can go in there and succeed anywhere.
Respect, man. Respect. I love the hustle. The hustle. Just so you know, I've done door knocking as well.
I bet you.
Yeah. Back in the day, I was selling properties though. I was selling karate lessons. I used to work for a karate company, and I door knocked all the residential areas, and tried to sell karate. But totally agree with you. It totally builds character and hardcore sales skills on the spot.
Yep.
Yeah, even a couple of months of that is like pretty much life changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you don't get a lot of it wasn't fun when you were doing it, but after a while you realize it was so valuable, right? So
very rewarding.
So anyone out there that's doing door knocking, don't diss it. It's actually really valuable.
That's it.
So what are some key lessons over the past 7 years as a business owner, and a successful one at that you would maybe give to me or give to people watching? What are the top 3 things that you would say has been the most valuable lessons to you running your business for 7 years?
Awesome.
I'm not putting you on the spot here.
Bruce, I was going to take a cue from you. I mean, you guys have done exceptionally well, and I've been watching your journey, and only in the space of 2 years, isn't it?
2 years. A little bit more than 2 years.
A little bit more than 2 years, in the Investmentor space, and I think it's amazing. But if you're asking me, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to take advice from.
But I'll touch on that.
3 things is, I think number 1, the willingness to take risks is really important. I was actually talking to someone on the way here, and I think a great mindset to have is, my parents are migrants. They came here by boat, And so when people talk to me about, entrepreneurial spirit of taking risks and taking leaps of faith, and I'm all about that. I love taking risks. And I say to them, I don't think I take any risks relative to what my mum and dad do. Like for someone that's a migrant and jumps on a boat and flees their country, I think that is the very essence of entrepreneurial spirit to find a better life, right? And for us to go out there and get an ABN and leave our day job because we weren't happy, that is entrepreneurial. But trust me, that level of risk is not that bad. So if you're there and listening and almost taking that step and thinking, I don't know if I can make it, trust me, in this country, it's designed for you to succeed. And if you don't, you can do it again. It's not a life and death situation. So,
that
I
hits
think
me really, really hard.
Yeah.
It really does, because, my parents came here in the same way as well, especially my dad, also as migrants, but also as refugees as well.
Yep.
So same story as you. The stories that my dad told me on how the pain and just all the stuff that he went through just to get here. Whatever I do in my life, nothing even compares to even 1% of what he experienced.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you. And what you just said really hits home to me, man. It really does.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm
What's the
glad you
second
can
thing?
resonate. Second thing for me is I think the hard work for me has been the very essence of our success. And it's not just me, but it's also the people that are around me. And so I think the energy that you put into your business resonates throughout your whole team. And thirdly, for me, is team. Without the team that I have around me, I couldn't be here today. I wouldn't. The business wouldn't be the way it is. And to be honest, they see the passion that I have. And today they drive the business to the new heights that we're in. Because personally myself, I couldn't be able to sustain a team of 25 people. We have some offshore people as well. Yeah. And for them to go in there with passion and with great energy to take it to the next level. And I always preach this, is that, the business can go so far with what I know. But the level of technical ability in our office now, because we've been able to hire great people, and same thing with you guys having a video crew here, that it's that the technical ability of theirs helps drive us to the next level. And it's about finding new talent and people with purpose and that will buy into our vision. And I think those are the three things. Having that entrepreneurial spirit, driving the business through hard work, and then having that strong team. I think are my top three.
I couldn't agree more. And if you ask me the top three, I think my top three would be very similar to yours as well.
Awesome.
Very similar responses.
Awesome.
Cool, man. Okay, let's go back to depreciation now.
Yeah, let's do it.
That could have been the end of the video. All right, yeah, we can stop it right now. Or done. No. Let's talk about depreciation. So I guess I'm just gonna, because I do get a lot of questions from depreciation, right? When it comes to people asking specific things. And so, because we've got you as an expert now, it'd be great to hear it from your point of view, because you do this day in, day out, every single day, right? And you've done it for 7 years already. And so one of the first and most common questions I get asked is, what is the difference between new and secondhand property?
Okay. All right. So pros and cons, or should we just talk about just general?
Let's go through the differences first, and then pros and cons.
All right. The differences.
Yes.
So brand new properties.
Yeah.
Okay. You buy a car off the lot, brand new. Always going to yield you much better depreciation than a car of the same nature, of the same brand, the same model, that's secondhand. Why? Because it's newer. It's going to have a lot more wear and tear. And generally, the depreciation rates for something brand new is going to give you better depreciation, because the depreciation rate may be the same, but if the value is higher, it gives you better depreciation earlier on. So that's why brand new properties will always yield better depreciation. Okay, same thing as cars. So when it comes to properties, though, it gets a little bit more intricate. The details is that the ATO has realized that secondhand properties have some issues when it comes to depreciation. All right, so if I was to go buy a brand new house, no problem. Brand new oven, brand new range hood, brand new cooktop. I've bought it brand new from the developer. I've bought it brand new from a builder. I can go on and claim the depreciation on that. Now, if I go buy a secondhand property, all right, and I buy a secondhand property that's built in the 1950s, and this property has same thing, oven, range hood, cooktop from the 1950s. I go in there and I claim depreciation on it. Now, how do I claim depreciation? I've got to get a quantity surveyor to assess the value of the oven, range hood, cooktop to then depreciate it.
Yes.
Now, if the quantity surveyor goes, okay, this brand new oven back in 1950s would have cost $100, okay? And that quantity surveyor walks in and goes, you know what? I think it'd be worth $80 in today's market. Now, that's a very subjective valuation on that oven, right? So the issue is then, not only is it valued at $80 today, but how many times has it been valued at $80 since 1950 to 2022? And so the ATO says there is a problem with valuing secondhand properties and an honest valuation. So what they've done is back in 2017, 9th of May 2017, they've legislated that secondhand properties can no longer claim depreciation on plant and equipment. So if you've got a property that you've purchased that's built in the 1950s, the ATO will no longer allow you to claim depreciation on the secondhand plant equipment, which include things like motorized equipment, that's oven, range hoods, air conditioners, and like garage motors, and certain things that aren't motorized, like door closers, carpets, they're also considered plant and equipment. So no longer, as a residential property investor, you cannot no longer claim plant and equipment depreciation when it's secondhand. So that's as of 2000. So that's a major difference.
That's a major difference. And I remember when they first brought in this rule, nobody talked about it. Until this day, no one, very few people actually even know that this change happened.
Yep.
But it actually affects so much of your depreciation.
It does.
For the first 10 years on a brand new property, it's like, like a massive 30-40% of the depreciation, isn't it?
Correct, that's right. So typically we're looking at, in terms of plant and equipment, around that 20 to 30% mark is pretty common for the amount of, so if you've got $1 million worth of construction costs, you're talking about 200 grand worth of plant and equipment at the very least.
Absolutely.
So that's money that's off the table.
Chunk. Yeah.
And I'm talking about properties that have been built a year ago. If you've bought a property that's 1 year old, that's also considered secondhand.
What about if you bought a property that's 1 day old?
Correct.
Even
Same thing.
Secondhand, right? Yeah.
Same
So you're going to be very careful about this one. So let's make this as simple as possible. What does plant and equipment mean?
Yeah. So generally anything that's motorized, and my definition is if you turn the house upside down, anything that falls off from the house would be considered plant equipment.
What if they're bolted in?
They're bolted in. Well, they're also anything motorized or that would fall off from the building. Yeah, motorized. But there are things that are not motorized as well. So door closers is one. Your mechanical hitch that allows the door to close.
The hinge?
Carpet. Yes, not the hinge, but mechanical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a door closer, right? You know how your door shuts on as you close automatically?
Yeah, right.
That's using a hydraulic arm. Okay. That hydraulic arm is a piece of plant equipment.
It's broken down to that detail, is it?
Correct.
Wow,
and it's quite an extensive list, and it's under the taxation ruling 2022. And so TR 2022 effective life schedule gives you a list of residential property operators' plant and equipment assets. And in that list, you also find things like restaurants. You might find commercial properties, whether you operate an industrial warehouse. There are a list of all different things, conveyor belts, things like that will all be listed. So they have all, the reason why they're listed is because the effective lives change on different equipment.
So it's not the actual kitchen itself, but it's actual items in the kitchen.
Correct.
So what's if we take a kitchen as an example, what's part of the kitchen that's plant equipment?
Or capital works. So obviously your joinery would be considered capital works because it's bolted.
Really?
Yeah, they're just doors and hinges. They're expected to last 40 years. Right. A door and a door hinge would be expected to tiling. Splashbacks. Yeah. You've got mirror finishes. Right. What else? We got paint, of course. Yeah. Now, a very interesting one is flooring. If you've got tiles, you've got tiles to a kitchen area, then that would be considered capital works because they're essentially glued on to the floor. Vinyls, they're plant equipment because they would wear and tear.
My goodness.
Or
really?
Yeah. So vinyl and carpet are generally plant equipment assets, whereas tiles are not.
Interesting.
And timber flooring is also a plant and equipment. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's crazy.
It gets a little bit delicate and intricate with the details of what is plant equipment.
That's why you do it and I don't.
That's right.
Yeah,
and the ATO
could be complicated already.
They can be very picky about these things when they pick up an ATO and a depreciation schedule to audit.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got plant and equipment out of the way. Let's talk about capital works. Because my understanding, capital works is actually the actual construction itself.
Yep.
So the frame, the timbers, well, not the timber.
Yep.
Timber is actually plant and equipment, right? Timber flooring.
Timber flooring is, but timber framing.
Timber framing.
Yep, is considered capital works. Or steel framing.
Yeah.
If you've got roofing.
Yeah.
Colorbond deck,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Even if you do a decking that in timber,
Yeah.
that is also capital works.
Okay.
They are expected to last 40 years, the life of the property. And you've got so generally anything from the slab up to the top of this roof, that forms the structure of the building, will be considered as capital work. Things like plasterboard, windows, doors, they're all capital work assets, and they represent something like 80% of the construction costs. So if I was to give people advice on, okay, what am I going to be able to claim? If you give me, your building costs, I would take 80% of that as a rough ballpark. But if it's a high-end property, I would lower that because, of course, plant and equipment, things like, a sub-zero fridge, high-end laundry assets, they have a dramatic effect on plant equipment, especially nowadays. We've got solar panels, which are also plant equipment assets. So it's a lot of these things can change that ratio between plant and equipment and capital works. And capital works is essentially defined as a Division 43. That's the official term, and that is over 40 years of depreciation. So 2.5%.
So that's the next thing I was going to ask, because when you look at depreciation reports, plant and equipment and capital works normally have a different title. It's Division 40 and Division 43.
Correct.
And that's the technical term, right?
Yep.
So just if you ever see the number 40, that just represents capital works.
Correct.
And if you ever see 43,
43 is capital works.
Sorry, so I'll get confused with it. So 43,
okay.
Division 43 is capital works.
Yep.
And then Division 40 is plant and equipment.
Correct.
Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind
Exactly.
as well.
Yep.
It gets quite confusing.
And then you also have within the 40, you
Yeah.
have your existing plant equipment, and which can't be claimed. And I don't want to go into that, but it's now considered a capital loss schedule.
Yeah.
It's a capital loss asset, no longer a plant and equipment depreciating asset because it's secondhand, right, for individuals.
I didn't understand that.
So if you've got plant and equipment, under Division 40, it defines brand new. When you're a property investor, if you buy a brand new property, they're depreciating assets. If you've got an oven, range hood, cooktop.
Yes.
Now, if you buy a second-hand property, that oven, range hood, cooktop is considered capital loss. So you can't claim depreciation, but you can claim it as a capital loss asset. But that might be another topic.
That's if you sell later on, right?
Correct.
And you do the valuation at the time, and whatever it's depreciated by over the time, you can claim it back.
You can claim a capital loss. I'm more than happy to go into it if you'd like.
Well, it was going to be one of the other questions I was going to ask
Let's
you later on, so we may as well ask. Wait till that moment.
Don't want to confuse.
We can define it in that section. How about that?
Sounds good.
We're trying to cut this up so that it can be easily navigated. Otherwise, we'll be jumping from one topic to the other.
That's
right?
it.
So we've got those plant and equipment and capital works definitions out of the way. So the next question is around. It's all around. Essentially, right? When you claim depreciation every year on your tax return, right? And you claim it year on year. You can also speak to your accountant. I know you're not an accountant, but you probably have knowledge around this to get it credited back to you every single on a monthly basis as well, right? Mm-hmm. You can do that. So can you walk us through the process of how to do that?
The depreciation schedule?
Yeah.
So essentially,
instead of getting it as one lump sum a year, get it as more of a monthly amount.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll. There is it's been a while. But you can fill out a form that allows your depreciation to be split up over each pay period. So that way you're getting percentages of the depreciation that's been allowed for each annual year. So each depreciation schedule is broken up into financial years. And if I allow $6,000, for example, in the first financial year, you could fill out a form with the ATO that allows you to claim that $6,000 because it's all forecast, right? A depreciation schedule is a forecast of all the depreciation that you'll incur over the life of the property, the building.
Yeah.
Now, if you already know that cost, the HO will say, okay, fine. If you own that property within the pay period, what we can do is actually allow you to fill in a form and then allow you to claim that depreciation in that component for that proportion period over that pay period. So you might, instead of $5,000, you might be able to claim, okay, instead of doing that every week, claim $100.
Yes.
So each pay period, you get a tax deduction of $100. So it's more money that you save from your more money that retains in your pocket.
So basically, it just allows you to claim, instead of getting a lump sum at the end of the financial year,
Correct.
You can get it broken down into monthly payments.
Yeah, and it boosts
throughout the year. It just boosts your cash flow.
Boosts your cash flow.
It's a really good method of like not having that, not occurring a cash flow hit, and then getting recredited back a year later. Because you can just do it like it can be part of your rent almost.
That's exactly how it should be, and that's exactly the way I try to educate, and I'm sure you guys do as well here at Investmentor. And essentially, it is a cash flow tool.
Yes.
The way I look at it is, I don't think about depreciation of a $10,000 deduction as a $4,000 refund, because that's what it is on a 40% tax rate.
Yeah.
I think of it as, okay, well, if I'm going to get $4,000 back, I'm receiving almost $80 to $90 a week in tax refund.
Absolutely.
So that's a cash flow tool, giving me the advantage to now build that into my my property investing journey, or spreadsheet at least.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, good trick as well. And not many people actually do that. And it really helps you with your cash flow. So for those of you that are listening and you've got properties to settle, remember what I told you. Make sure you do this, because it's going to help you with your cash flow as well. So now we're talking about how you can claim it back on tax, on your taxable income, right? So let's say you buy let's take an example of a brand new property. You buy it and then you're claiming depreciation for the next 5 or 6 years. Let's just say you're doing that. Every year you're claiming all of these deductions and it's hitting your capital, your taxable income every single year, right? So your taxable income is getting lowered by the depreciation amount.
Yep.
Now, at the end of that 6-year period, let's say you sell the property, right? How does the depreciation get added back when you sell? Can you walk us through that now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course, this almost falls into tax.
It kind of does.
But
yes.
I'm more than happy to give some guidance in my experience.
Yes.
So what's happened with my personal situation is, when I claim depreciation over a 6-year period, and say, for example, it's $60,000 I've claimed over 6 years. Now, when I purchase this property for $1 million, and I go to sell the property for $1 million, that means I've made no loss. I've actually neutralized the sale of the property. I've actually made no loss or no gain. So you bought it
for $1 million, sold it for $1 million.
6 years later.
You claimed it, but you claimed $60,000 of depreciation.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if I was to do that, technically, what I've done is I've made a gain of $60,000, because if I make $1 million, I buy it for $1 million and I sell it for $1 million, and I've claimed $60,000 in between, the property should be only worth $940,000, because $1 million is including your land, your building, and when I go to sell it, if I claim $60,000 off the building, it's now worth $940,000. Okay.
Yes.
That's the calculation.
Yep.
Now, if I sell it for $1 million, I've actually made a gain. I actually haven't neutralized I've made a gain of $60,000.
Yes.
And that's how the ATO sees it. But because I've held it for 6 years in my individual capacity, I've actually been able to reduce the gain by 50%, because when you sell a property under the CGT discount rule, you can claim a deduction on the capital gains by 50%. So then I'm only paying $30,000 $30,000 as a taxable income.
So that's a really good way of explaining it, because I think that's the first time someone's actually explained it using the CGT method.
Yep.
Because essentially that's just a gain of 60 grand.
Correct.
That's all it is.
That's right.
And then because you held it for more than 12 months, you get a 50% CGT discount. Therefore, you only pay tax on $30,000.
That's right. And
when you sell.
That's right.
And that's how the calculation works.
Correct. And that's why.
That
but
makes
you're
a lot of sense.
You're always claiming and so people say, well, what's the purpose of claiming depreciation? Well, one, you get to claim the $60,000 up front.
Yes.
You're getting $60,000 deduction right now that you can go and buy another property with.
Correct.
Right? You're not getting it at the end. You're getting it right now up front, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 6.
You're getting it when the inflation rate is not that high yet.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And when you go to sell,
Yeah.
there's another benefit.
Yeah.
Is that if you buy it in individual capacity and you're an Australian resident, or even as an SMSF, you get a CGT discount by 50%. And most properties, I would say, I'm sure, in my book of customers anyway, our clientele, at least 95% of people are buying in individual capacities. So they're all getting, tax breaks on the sale of the property, and that makes the depreciation worth it while again, because even though you're getting $60,000 deduction, you're not paying $60,000 back. You're only paying $30,000 back. So you're $30,000 ahead in tax deductions.
But when you say you're paying $30,000 back, it's not even $30,000. You're paying tax on $30,000. So if you're on a 40% tax rate, I mean, you can do the math right there, right? It's like
30.
grand,
yeah, that's
whatever.
right. 10, 12 grand or something.
$12,000 per tax.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, in Australia, we have what we call depreciation. We would be crazy not to leverage on that.
Absolutely. Depreciation is such an important part of the property process, especially new properties.
Especially new properties.
Yeah,
and if you're paying $10 million for a brand new warehouse or an office, these are one of those things that you want to be leveraging on. And mind you, we work with some commercial property investors or buyers agents, and depreciation is one of those things, is the must-have in their spreadsheets for calculation, because the cash flow on an $8 million or $10 million retail space that's only 5 years old is humongous. I'm talking about $200,000 to $300,000 of tax deductions per year. And mind you, commercial don't get affected by the second-hand rule. So if you're a second-hand property investor and you buy a property that's 5 years old in commercial, you also get a full tax break on plant and equipment as well.
That's interesting.
Only for commercial.
So what are the besides that, what are the other differences for commercial versus residential from a depreciation point of view?
Depreciation point of view, there's the advantage of both. Plant equipment and capital works, as mentioned.
That's big. That's huge.
You also, if you buy a manufacturing facility, so if you go into investing into a manufacturing facility and that warehouse or shed is designed to create, dog food or whatever it might be, the depreciation rate increases to 4%, so 25 years rather than 40 years of depreciation. And if you go into buy a hotel or a motel,
I didn't get that part. It decreases to
decreases.
4%.
So increases to 4%, right?
Yeah.
So your depreciation rate
goes up. So every year you can claim 4% more.
No, 4% instead of 2.5%.
Yeah. So okay. So instead of claiming 2.5% depreciation, it goes up to 4%.
Yep.
But the time frame goes down from 40 years to 25 years.
Correct. So you're getting all that construction costs.
Yeah.
Instead of 40 years, you now claim it in 25 years, more compressed.
Okay, so that's better.
Better.
It's a good thing because you're getting more money up front. So
for specific industries.
So what classifies those industries?
So manufacturing. It has to be specific in manufacturing.
Okay.
In that commercial space you bought creates or produces things.
Wow.
Right?
That's great.
And if you have a short stay accommodation, or a motel or a hotel
is that
you
Airbnb?
purchase,
Airbnb classified?
No, because that's still residential.
Okay.
Because it's got mixed use.
So it has to be like
purely
commercial short term.
That's right. Yeah. Commercial short term stay accommodation.
Yeah.
And that will allow you to do same thing, 4% depreciation rate, so 25 years of depreciation.
I'm just going to ask one question here because I heard you use like the term 2.5% or 4%. My understanding was that it's not based on a percentage. Like it has to, because every property is different and every single line item is different because every single property is made differently and they got into different equipment.
Yep.
It wasn't just a straight 2.5% calculation. Everything was unique, or is my understanding wrong on that?
You are right.
Yeah.
For plant and equipment. Yeah.
Okay.
Because capital works is all seen as one holistic item, right? So if you've got a floor slab, frames, plasterboard, glazing, they're all grouped together and split over 40 years of depreciation for residential.
But isn't there like different levels of quality when it comes to framing and stuff like that? Like,
there is different qualities, but the life expectancy has been set by the ATO. They don't allow you to deviate from that. 40 years.
So basically, whatever your capital works is, over 40 years, it's just a straight 2.5 years every single year.
2.5%, correct.
2.5% every single year.
Correct. Yeah. And the only deviation that you have is in the cost of materials. And the higher the cost of materials is, the more depreciation you can claim.
Okay.
So that only inflates the construction costs, which allows you to claim more, but over the same period of time.
Okay, and then so plant and equipment is where the deviation is where you have to actually do line by line.
Correct. Okay. That's right. Where there is an understanding from the ATO is that they agree that carpets will last longer than anything that's motorized in the building.
Understand.
Motorized equipment generally would be 5 to 7 years.
Understand.
Carpets and flooring would generally be 12 to 15 years. Yeah. So there is that common understanding from the ATO. I believe like things like sheds, they've got different depreciation rates, and that's the only places that differ. And they are also considered plant equipment, and they have an effective life.
What about granny flats?
Granny flats are the same, so we have to break them down in what constitutes capital work, construction costs, or plant and equipment. So they are under the same legislation.
So let's just say this is a great lead on to the next question, which is you buy a second-hand property and then you do a renovation, right? So how does depreciation work when it comes to buying a second-hand and renovating it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good question. So second-hand, you would be entitled to claim depreciation on the capital works of that second-hand property if it fell under the legislation of 1987. That is a cut-off date for buildings. If any building is built after 1987, even though it's second-hand, you can still claim capital works. Okay. Now, if you go in and this property is very old, built before 87, second-hand, there's nothing to claim. You can claim depreciation if you go and renovate the property, do a major renovation, and it might be kitchen, bathroom, the whole place is repainted. If you do that, laundry, you can go and claim the new laundry assets, the new tiling to the house, the new paint that you've put in, the new joinery that's in the kitchen and the bathroom, anything that's tiles to the bathroom as well. Yeah. You can claim all that. Now, there is one rule that's an exception to all of this that people should be taking note of. If you go into a property, and we talked about when someone owns a property for 1 day. Yeah. Now, if you go and buy a property from someone, so that means it's secondhand, right? Yeah. But the property that you've purchased off the previous owner is a substantial renovation, is the term the ATO uses. The ATO will allow you to treat that property as a brand new premises. Okay.
So I need to understand this correctly. So let's just say I buy a property and I completely renovate it. Right? It's old property, but I give it a massive renovation.
Yep.
And then I sell it to you. What time frame that constitutes like for you to claim that as a brand new property?
6 months.
6 months. So you have to buy it within 6 months of my renovation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the works that you've done within 6 months, you go sell the property. Yeah. And once the new owner purchases and rents it out, they will be entitled to claim full depreciation on both plant and equipment and capital work because it's seen as a substantial renovation that they've purchased from the previous owner. Okay. So that's one exception that the ATO has come up with. For 40 years.
That's big.
Both
that's
exactly.
Huge. That's huge. Yeah.
And if you think about a house in the inner west, eastern suburbs, they're not all brand new houses, and this is where the legislations come in to protect them. Correct. Because like some houses are heritage listed and whatnot, so that protects them because major renovations are quite extensive when it comes to costs. Right. And so if you're using that as an investment property, you will reap the full benefits of
So buyers just understand that if you're buying a newly renovated property, check when they did renovation, and if it's within 6 months, you get to claim it as a new property. That's big. It's huge.
It is huge.
It's huge.
It is
a big
huge.
difference.
100% it is. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. Okay, so I kind of lost my train of thought here. What was my next question again? Too much plant equipment, Division 4, Division 43, 2%, 4.5%. It's all kind of jumbled up in my head now. So let's just say you buy so here, knock down and rebuilds.
Yep.
How does that factor in?
Yep.
Yeah.
So a knockdown.
Yeah.
Or demolition of a portion. All right, same thing.
Same
if we go
thing.
knock down
Okay.
something, or we knock down a certain portion of the house,
Yeah.
if there is something in the house that you knock down, still lies under the umbrella of depreciable.
Yeah.
So that means that it's built after 87.
Yep.
So, for example, if you've knocked down a renovated bathroom again, and that was completed after 1992, that's the cutoff for renovations. If you go, okay, so if you knock down a bathroom that was built in 1995, okay, and the kitchen, which was built in 1998,
Yeah.
all right, only a portion of the house, and then you decide to reconstruct it. Now, not only, of course, when you reconstruct it, you can claim full depreciation on brand new bathroom and laundry.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Because they're all brand new assets. Kitchen, you've got your oven, range hood, you've got your dishwasher, or you've got your washing machine, okay, and
Yeah.
dryer.
Yeah.
So you can claim all that because they're brand new, and you've purchased that and installed that, right? And you can claim that, and you can claim the brand new joinery and whatnot. But the old kitchen and the old laundry was completed in 95 or 98. They're still depreciable today. So 95, add 40 years on, and 2022 we're in. 95 plus 40 years is 2035.
Yeah.
So technically, had I not
Still gotta
knocked
do a bit
down,
more.
I would have been able to claim another 13 years of depreciation on this of this kitchen and laundry.
Yeah.
So then, say for example, there's a residual value. Had I left it and claimed for another 13 years, I would have been able to claim another $8,000. But
Yeah,
because
I
I've
understand.
scrapped it now,
Yeah.
because I've demoed it,
Yeah.
I'll be able to claim an immediate write-off or a scrapping value of $8,000 in my tax return
Oh, I didn't know
today.
that. That's interesting.
In this, yes. So
That's big as well.
the day you demo that
Yeah.
is the day you scrap.
So let's just say I demo something that's still got 20 years of depreciation. Can I scrap 20 years?
Correct.
Really?
You can scrap 20
Holy
years in
shit.
balance.
That's
Yes.
big.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like people, you'd be surprised. And
Yeah.
I mean, like today's time, like we're doing depreciation schedules for properties that are built in the 90s or
Wow.
80s. And we're
Wow.
claiming like $1,000 or $2,000 a year. And people still do it because it's a cash flow, right?
Hold on. So let me get this right. If I scrap a kitchen
Yeah.
that's still got 20 years left, can I claim that and write off 20 years on a kitchen?
Straight
you
away.
You can,
Straight
right?
away.
Wow, that's big.
As long as it's a rental property and the intent of when you reconstruct
Yeah.
the kitchen is for rent
Interesting.
for investment,
Interesting.
you can write that off.
Interesting.
Yep. In the year that
I hope accountants know this. I really hope accountants know this. My
Yeah.
goodness. I'm just wondering, I'm thinking in my head, how many people out there have done renos and demolitions and all this stuff and had no idea they could do this?
many people.
Many people.
You'd be
I
surprised.
can't imagine.
And you know,
because
most,
the accountants won't tell them.
No.
And if the accountants won't tell them, well, it's gone.
it needs to be a conversation with a
So
quantity
if
surveyor.
somebody does that and they realize that they didn't claim this, let's just say they did it 5 years ago, can they backtrack it and claim it?
The ATO will allow you to amend up to 2 years of tax returns as an individual.
Yeah.
And as companies, you're allowed to amend up to 4 years.
Okay.
But if you fill in a form, and
Yeah.
our customers have, clients have of
Yeah,
mine,
yeah.
fill in a form because they come to us, they're like, what on earth? I did not know I could claim 10 years of depreciation or whatever it might be. Oh,
Yeah.
I demoed
No,
my house.
I'm asking you because I did a reno at one of my rental properties 2 years ago
Okay, well-
and I didn't do this.
Exactly.
I'm-
So
I'm
you
pissed.
could do an amendment to a tax return,
Yeah.
or what they do is there's a form called you could raise an objection,
Yeah.
and you fill up the objection form, and you'd say I was
Okay.
not advised about scrapping
Right,
of,
right.
of my kitchen or laundry, whatever
Yeah,
it might be.
yeah.
And here is a quantity surveyor's assessment
Okay.
of that kitchen based on the photo evidence that I provided him,
Yeah.
and some floor plans. Give that to me or a quantity surveyor, and then we can do an estimation of what that value is, and that would be accepted by the ATO.
Wow, okay. That's big.
Yeah.
That's huge. Even for me.
Yeah.
Even for me.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
I've been down this
I didn't
road.
know that.
And
And,
you know, it-
I thought I knew depreciation. I guess I didn't. Yeah.
There's lots to it,
Yeah.
but look, it only
Yeah.
comes across to us when it's in conversation about,
Yeah,
hey,
of course.
what can I
of
do?
course. Have you done a video on this?
I haven't.
You should.
Yes,
you should.
definitely. Yeah,
you
we
should.
should. We
you should
should.
do a video and run ads
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah.
You get so many people signing up. I do a webinar.
Filling a lot,
We teach you
a
how
lot
to
of
do a webinar.
how to fill up an objection form as well.
100%. Seriously. You get so many people interested.
Thanks for the advice.
Yeah. So, are we almost on time? Okay, so we're going to wrap things up. I have
Yep.
one last question for you before we wrap up.
Okay.
Properties in trusts.
Mm-hmm.
So whether in self-managed super, family trusts or unit trusts, how does that depreciation work in those trusts?
Yep. So if it's a corporate trust,
Yeah.
like a unit trust, or a company,
Yeah.
you can claim full depreciation. Okay.
Yep.
And the only difference is that I believe in company or corporate trust, there is no CGT benefit. There is no CGT discounts.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But you can claim depreciation up front, which
Yeah.
helps you with cash flow.
Yeah.
But in family trusts or individual, non-corporate trusts,
You mean like also
family trusts,
SMSF as well?
SMSFs,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can claim full depreciation. Only on brand new, but you can't claim. You will be capped with the second-hand plant and equipment ruling.
So the plant and equipment, all the rules that apply to residential
individuals
will apply as individuals,
as
will apply
and SMSF.
in family trusts and in individual trusts as well.
Correct.
So-
Non-corporate.
So one thing that people get confused about is, let's just say there's no income being generated in that trust. All right? Let's just say it's just a family trust and there's no income.
Yep.
But you've got all this depreciation piling up and up. After, say, 10 years, 15 years when you sell, can you just write that all off as a capital loss on the capital gain?
That's a great question for an accountant.
don't know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Usually, if you've got depreciation, in my experience, when I have depreciation sitting in the family trust,
It just sits there. There's no income to generate any sort of like anything. Like you can't offset it against any sort of
they're
income.
losses,
Yeah.
and they can be carried.
I
believe.
think my
But
understanding that you can. I just want to confirm this. Maybe I need to ask an accountant.
you definitely do.
Okay.
That's an accountant question for sure.
Okay. All right.
But
All
the
right,
depreciation, more than happy to
Before
help.
we wrap up, would you guys like to have a discussion about how the working relationship here goes for our members? I know they get kind of some reports.
Yeah. Perfect. That's a really good one, actually. That's good.
I can't even recall.
It's a good way. It's a good way to wrap up.
I don't even recall.
So
what
Duotax is our partner when it comes to depreciation. So whenever a member purchases property through us and it comes time to settlement and then to get their depreciation reports done, Duotax and Tuan's team is a person that will actually put those depreciation reports together. And usually members don't even know this. They're just going to get sent a report and it's got the name Duotax there. A lot of members don't even care as long as they get it. However, it's really, really good to understand that there are people behind the report that you get. And also, it's not just the property you buy through us. If you have other properties anywhere else, like for example, you got investment properties that are secondhand that have gone under the renovation, these guys are the experts that will help you on that. Just through this podcast alone, even I learned a lot of things that I had no idea about. And I thought I knew, right? So I'm sure for you guys, there's a lot more you can learn about as well. You can also check out their YouTube channel. It's called Duotax. And they put out a lot of content, just like us, and a lot of topics around depreciation and all sorts of things. You can go out and check out their videos as well. What I might also do is maybe in the editing, we can put down someone's contact details. You can give me a name and a contact, and we can put the details down there. If you have any questions, you can email them. Or if you have any, need for depreciation reports, you can also contact them directly, and I'm pretty sure they'll be able to give you a pretty good rate, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
My email's tuan@duotax.com.au, TUAN, and I'm more than happy to help out. That's what I do.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Tuan, it's great to have you on. We should do more of this.
100%.
Next time I'll come to your office and you can interview me. How about that?
That sounds good. Thanks for your tip today.
No worries at all. Thank you very much, and it was
Cheers.
great to have you on.
Likewise.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you.
Bye.